to our mom cast. Do you like that word? I came up with it, mom cast.
I do. I know
And
because we got two generations of motherhood right here.
yes, so for those of you that don't know, I'm Demika Odom Thorpe. This is my mom, Amelia. She is obviously a mom, but also
Mental health professional.
I was about to get into it. Working with foster kids, been in education, anything that you could think that, I mean, like church, youth groups, like anything that you could think of that's dealing with like young people, their progress, the betterment of them. Like she didn't have her foot in pretty much every door. Um, so yeah, so today we are going to be discussing one of the hot topics that I'm currently navigating. And so this is a real life mom to mom conversation about balancing motherhood and career. I'm in my late 20s and I feel like when I first graduated from not high school, I did not know what I was doing when I graduated high school. When I first graduated from college and I got right into the education field, I feel like I had a very strong sense of like, yes, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. And then it just didn't. Like, I don't know what the revelation was. I don't know when it hit me. I can kind of tell, but I think like it happened slowly but surely, and I went through this whole like I'm just going to be a great teacher and then maybe a great principal and then, just work my way up the ladder and then I was like, no. Like at some point it was just like no. And then I think, recognizing that like yes, education is important to me, but that's not the only thing. And I think that because we're so indoctrinated with this idea that you go into one field and that's like your life and that's like the only thing that you do, that like I had started, getting into that groove and I was just like, do I want to be like 70 and still in the classroom or like in this box? Like, no, I kind of want to do something bigger. And so now it's like, at first I was really cool with that because Zaya was young, it was stability, it was all of the things. But like now that she's older, not grown, but she's 5, and all of our kids are like talking, walking, all of those things are like out of the way. It's kind of like, okay, how do I get back into myself and like what I want to do with my life and how do I still balance raising these little people? So, what
And
was
and
your
that
experience?
that is so deep, right? To unpack all of that. The dynamic of parenting, number one, is a full-time job. Uh, it's a passion, it's a love that you really don't even know how deep it goes until you're there. Like you can say, everybody says when they're a kid, oh, I want 2.5 children, a husband, and a dog, and, all of these exotic dreams. But then once you get to that level, you're thinking, okay, do I focus more on career or do I focus more on family? Do I go for the goals that I set or do I make sure I'm just mom? You know, not that it's just mom, but it's the mothering. So, my life experience was I always wanted to be engaged with youth. That was my passion. Literally walking out of high school, went to the city asking for a building to have a youth center because I wanted to pour into youth. Like there's never probably going to be uh, a time where there's a lot of community engagement where everybody in the community cares about the youth in the community. Well, I was probably the last generation to experience that, and I just wanted to pour that back into the next generation, right? And so, but the city told me no, they did not support. And so, you shift, pivot, let's go. What's next? So I went into working, not a career, working. But then um, after having children, I knew I wanted to be the best possible mom that I could be. I wanted to do all the things that I had seen, all the things that I had poured into me. I wanted to pour back and give twice as much.
So
And
did you
so,
stop working? Like, did you ever take like a certain amount of time off with me or
no,
Derry? It
I
was just
took
a normal, like,
the
maternity leave.
and maternity leave then wasn't like maternity leave now. It was 6 weeks, you know, eight
And it's
if you
still six
push it.
weeks?
No, most jobs give you 12.
Oh, I didn't know that. I thought it was six regardless.
No, they most of them give you 12, which that's 3 months at home. Like what I wouldn't have done for that, right? But
Mm.
life happens, and so you move with the flow. And so I didn't get to be a stay-at-home mom. I didn't get to enjoy, those moments, those times that I think were very vital. But I have always had a job that allowed me to still be mom. So field trips, um, parent teachers conference, whatever that looked like, I was always able to flex and tell them, hey, my children are involved, and I was able to leave and go do what I needed to do. So that's one aspect. But then as my children got older, I knew that, okay, jobs are good, they pay the bills, but what do I really want to do? How do I really want to make a difference and have an impact? So
So at what point, what age do you think you unlocked your like, this is the career that I want to have?
I'm going to say my late 30s,
Hmm.
because up until then, there was no process in it. It was moving in the moment,
Hmm.
always. But late 30s, I was like, this is not it. And I had a somewhat decent job at that time, worked for the state, but and I enjoyed what I did because I enjoy helping, right? Everybody knows that's me. I'm gonna help anybody and everybody. But it wasn't fulfilling. And I couldn't
Hmm.
imagine just going through the motions for the rest of my life. And so got into mentoring teen girls. It was like, and from there, I said that I've got to do something down this path. So went back to school later in life, and now as I look at the next generation, my heart's desire is to ensure that the next generation has that from day one, not late 30s, right? I don't want you to be in your late 30s figuring out, oh, what is it that I'm passionate about? What is it that I really want to do and be impactful with? So my goal now is to make sure that everybody understands. Figure out what it is you really want to do before you get out there, before you start a family, because balancing career and motherhood is difficult. I didn't um, I didn't realize how pressing it would be to choose one or the other. How
That's a good,
taxing.
that was my pretty much my next question. Like, do you feel like it's a balance or is it a choice? Because what I'm noticing is the people that say like, I just gotta get my feet, wet in this career. I want to climb the ladder. I want to be in this tax bracket before I have a kid or this age before I have a kid. That just keeps the goalpost keeps moving, right?
Moving
And then
further
it's
and further
like,
back.
dang, it's too late. If I have kids now, it's gonna be certain risk, and so I
Yeah,
have
geriatric
always,
pregnancy is 35 now. Like,
yeah.
what?
So I feel like the same age that you're supposed to be climbing that ladder as far as career goes, like even if you feel like you know what you want to do at 18 or you feel like you want to know what you want to do at 21, you still gotta get your feet wet. You still gotta network. You still gotta climb the ladder, and that takes years. Like you look up and you 5 years in, and you haven't focused on dating. You haven't focused on a family, and then now your doctor's like, "Well, time's ticking," So it's like you kind of have to choose, right?
You do have to choose, but I think you have to choose wisely, okay? Because I think you can have both. I really believe that that is possible. I think what we have to do is be willing to sacrifice, like meet in the middle. It's compromise, right? Even in a relationship, you're never 50-50. You're 80-20, you're 20-80, you whatever. Um, so I think that the same with career and parenting. Like, it's not choosing one over the other, it's choosing both and then figuring out how to navigate them.
Mm, that's good.
So, you are homeschooling your minors while working and,
You
you
make
know,
them sound like little criminals or something. Your mind.
minors. Terminology I use, sorry. I don't like the term kids, so uh, they're
I get it.
minors. Um, So you've chosen that route. I don't know that I could have done that in my time.
I don't know that I can.
You're doing a great job. Okay. Uh, but that's a choice and you making it work. It's not easy. No choices we make are ever going to be easy, but the value is what we have to focus on, how important it is. You want your children to be well established, well grounded, rooted in self as well as knowledge, right? Y-
Mm-hmm.
I don't I don't think I neglected to do that. I just don't think I did it as much as I could have if I were staying home and homeschooling, right? Because I think I balanced enough whereby I got pretty strong black women that came up. So, but I would have liked to have poured more.
I think, and this is me giving you your flowers because I think you did a good job at like really nailing it. Now, I think I did have some like identity crisis early on, but I think you did. I think I think I needed outside validation. Once I went to HBCU, I was like, oh, I know who I am. Like I heard all of this before, but it took that
That
for
external,
me to
that external
validate that like this makes sense because technically in the way I was navigating the world, it really never made sense. Like whenever I was truly authentically myself, it was like she's weird, she's a nerd, she's this, she's that. And like now I can look back at those times and own it. Like I
embrace it,
don't
right?
I don't know if you remember this. I think I bring this up a lot though. But when I was in school, I boycotted the lunch system.
I do
And I was like,
recall
I was
that.
a little activist back then. Like, I thought that was so cool. Like, looking back at it, but like in the moment, people thought I was weird, but like they also wanted to be a part of like whatever it is that,
That movement, right?
yeah. And so it's
Yes.
like,
It
I'm
was like
proud of that now.
owning some power, right? Wielding it, owning it, knowing how to utilize it, and then bringing others aboard to have that same experience. Like, I think that we as women, then we as Black women, right? Given
Mm,
everybody that spectrum, we don't often get to use or know how to use power.
mm-mm,
We all want it, but being able to utilize it and having the impact on the rest of the people.
mm,
Like, I remember years ago, pastor told me, he's like, anybody can get a following, but can you keep the audience captivated enough to make a difference or make a
mm.
change, right?
And
And
I
I
feel like
think
that's something that you really anchored in us was like be different, believe what you're gonna believe, stand on what you're gonna stand on. And it created really strong, like even in my relationship, even as a
bullheaded
mom,
sometimes.
like
Yeah, right.
I'm like, No, this is what I believe." And I feel like I had a lot of emotional intelligence behind it because it was just like, no, this is what I believe. This is how you make me feel. This is why I feel this way. Now, did I have to evolve into like the more mature way of communicating that? Sure, because I used to, cuss you out in a second because you can't tell me nothing. But now, it's like I got a little bit more therapeutic vocabulary so I can express it, but sometimes I still have to like talk to myself or talk to, somebody else before I address the situation with the person that I'm having a problem with because I want to make sure that I'm navigating it correctly. At first, it was just like, this is what I believe, and so you're crazy. Um,
Bump that and everything you thought you knew.
yeah, I remember like being very young, and I remember like I kind of regret some things that I told, like people older than me were all I was ever around. And so they were making decisions and life decisions that I didn't agree with, like morally. And I told them. And I told them in a very blunt, unforgiving, not so loving way because I was like, no, no, my mama told me that's not right. The Bible says this. Like I'm Bible thumping people upside the head, like, but I just strongly remember having a very strong sense of self at a young age. And, like I said, if I could go back in time, I would like to apologize to those people. I don't even know if like what I said, was damaging to them or if they remember it as much as I do. But I just remember like having a very strong sense of self. And like I can see that in Zaya now, right? Like you
Very
can't tell
forward,
nothing.
very outspoken, and very uh, confident,
Mhm.
right, in what she believes and how she believes it to be. And so she doesn't have a problem with articulating that to any and every, good,
Anybody,
bad, or
yeah.
ugly, right? It's
Anybody.
fine. And so I think when we were talking about balancing the career, um, I think we should choose wisely, even in that path,
Mhm.
because if you choose a career based off of, oh, that's where all the money is, that's what I want, blah, 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 are you going to be able to walk away to parent
Mhm.
and at what point? But if you don't parent well, we know what society produces, right?
Yeah.
You We see that all too often, and I feel bad for parents who start at an early age, right? And I'm not demeaning anybody or bashing, and this is not for uh, being facetious. I just really want people to understand when you choose to parent early in life, it creates a sense of hustle or grind that often dismisses the needs of the child, right? So
Yeah.
now I got to work two and three jobs because baby got to have Jordans every week. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? And can't look half done because that's not appropriate. Desperate
Mhm.
Housewives say you got to be on point every time you step out the door. So now we miss the opportunity to truly parent because we are choosing
Or
careers and jobs or whatever it looks like to get that grind, that hustle.
and in that same and don't get me wrong, like there are so many stories that break the stereotype, but I still know that it's also true that in that same light of like when like the earlier you have kids, you lose focus of yourself, and so that career option doesn't really turn into an option
Apply.
because it's bills, 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 kids, 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 like, and it's kind of harder to like you want to go to school and provide for your child. Like that's a hard thing to do. Go to school in the day and work at night, or go to school at night, work in the day, whatever the case may be. I've seen people do it. I'm not saying that it can't be done, but I don't know if I have that hustle. Can't say
And that,
that, but
and that's the thing, when you're talking about that, there are many that break the stereotype, but there are
mm,
so many that fall in the stereotype as well. And so, um, the tablet end up being the parent, or the TV, or
mm,
the Xbox. Okay, all of those things end up parenting your child, and I was probably again one of the last generations that had healthy TV shows,
Mhm.
or enough of them. I'll say that, um, a variety. Now you have all of these television shows, YouTubers that are teaching kids very unhealthy aspects of life. And so, if that's going to be the parent, where does that lead your child? And then you look up, and I really, I'm grateful every day. I promise you, I'm grateful every day that I got to be mom. I really am. Above every job I've ever had, that was the biggest title for me. You can call me CEO, CFO, CO. I don't care about any of that. My biggest title will always be mom. So I appreciate that. But when you have all of these other things going on, you don't get that opportunity. You look up and your kids are grown. I mean, Zaya's 5 already. Like,
Tell me about it.
like you blinked and she's 5. Now you're gonna blink again and she'll be 15.
And I keep looking at these baby pictures like, what happened?
And so when you're talking about the balance of career and motherhood, don't ever let anything outweigh that motherhood because the years fly by. And I don't know. I'm grateful that my girls like me. You know what I'm saying? Because there are some kids who, because their parents didn't get to parent, and right, wrong, or indifferent, I'm not judging, they didn't
Hmm.
get to spend that time parenting because they were in the middle of the grind or the hustle,
Hmm.
that their kids don't even like them.
That's true. I think, one thing, like you said, that I struggle with or that I just rack my brain around is the fact that, like, for example, you were able to be at a lot of our events because you had more flexible jobs. Those flexible jobs are like fewer and further in between nowadays, and those are usually the jobs that aren't paying six figures, if I'm being honest. So it's like if you genuinely have this desire to be in a certain tax bracket, um I think that there's a lot of, like you said earlier, there's a lot of sacrifice in that because there are people who really desire to have kids in a family, but it's like, bro, I don't want to be broke just to do it. And I feel like that's another like strong like like choice
S-
that you have to make.
Struggle that you have, yeah. And I think shame on our society, right? Let's just be
Agreed.
real honest. Shame on our society that you have to choose between putting food on the table and parenting your child. Uh,
And I
mo-
think this is a great place to insert all of the black women who left this country to have kids and also have a career. Like, I really, don't know what the future holds, but I don't know that I would be willing to stay in this country and have another child. You know what I'm saying? Like the healthcare, the maternal death rate, like you're fighting all of these different battles, and it's like you go to another country and they're like, "What? Your mom? Take the year off." Like you
right. I
like,
was just
why don't we
telling
respect
Shirley that
our moms like this?
I like we were talking about going to Canada, and I was like, uh, have you seen like their maternal leave? Like, I mean, the job I work at now, they offer 12 to 16 weeks, right?
Hmm.
Canada's offering 3 to 6 months, okay, to be home with your child.
That
Or is it six
matters.
months to a year? Whatever. It's so different because they understand the value in parenting. And I don't think this country has gotten there or will get there, you
And
know,
it's like if we did though, like imagine all of the things that would affect because you got to think about it. Like you're saying that like, oh, you're in poverty, like you need to be working two to three jobs and pulling yourself up by the bootstraps. And it's like, but
that you ain't
yeah,
even
so
got, but we ain't gonna
who's
talk about
raising
it.
my kids while I'm doing this? And then y'all talk about the crime rates. But we haven't respected a mom, we haven't respected a teacher, we haven't as a society done anything to make sure that We're not raising criminals. How could we?
And let's pause that, put a pin in that part right there, we are because we are moms, we're focusing on moms, but where does dads come in? Where do dads come in
Mm-hmm.
and play? Okay. Like uh even with me having the jobs that I've had that allowed me to be flexible, my husband didn't, right?
Mm-hmm.
So dads don't get to be that parenting engagement partner. They are the backbone and the support, while mom has this penny any job that allows her to be mom. Somebody got to pay the real bills, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so I think that this country should really accept that responsibility of not supporting the men in being parents, because there are a lot of girls who have daddy issues growing up. There are a lot of guys who don't know how to be a man because daddy wasn't around and supporting that. There are the school system. The average kid does not come encounter with a male teacher as someone in authority in a school district until high school or college. Do
Mm-hmm.
you know what that looks like for a kid growing up? They have no male role model,
Mm-hmm.
none. But a little girl to feel validated by a male, so she accepts anything from anybody, right? For a young man to not have that man to show him how to be a man, how to treat a lady, how to do all of, for not having a person of authority other than a police officer who's usually using his authority in all the wrong ways. Let's
Mm-hmm.
we're not gonna touch that one too deep.
Yeah, we don't have to get into that. But
But you
facts.
know, those those things really matter. And so when these men, ladies, little ones grow up, the minors grow up to be adults, what is the impact? How does it
Yeah.
affect their growth? How does it affect their relationships? How does it affect their ability to lead? Because they've never seen it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so I think when we're talking parents, we have to be mindful, you know, that it takes two, but it also takes two.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and I think moms have it. I'm a little bit biased, a little bit of a feminist here, but I think moms have it really hard because that motherhood aspect, from the fact that this child grew in your womb, you carried this child for 9 to 10 months, and this is literally part of you.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have to walk away after 6, 8 weeks to go back and slave drive so that you can provide.
And then it's like even when you're providing, like you have so much mom guilt, right? Like I obviously got to spend, the first basically 2 years of Zaya's life with her because of the pandemic. But going back, I felt so bad. I felt bad for a lot of reasons, right? For one, I feel like support systems and villages look different today, right? Like you and dad had y'all parents who were retired, chilling, not chilling, but like social security, they were just like at home. They were grandparents
Available.
who were at home. I don't feel like the reality of an at home grandparent is a thing anymore because society has created such an economy where it doesn't, like, who's retiring at 50?
Who can
Nobody.
afford to retire at 50, right?
Right. So it's just like, no, we don't have those same like stay at home grandparents who can just really, your kids can be with somebody that you really trust. And then, I also feel bad because I was just like, I know how, impactful for real, those first 5 years shape your whole being. And so I'm like, bro, I want to be a part of this. Like, I want to be a big part of this because, like, I want to know what that looks like in an adult. Like, who really knows what that looks like? A
I
lot of people
don't
don't
know. I don't. And
because it's
I
usually this like melting pot of people values and all of these things being inputted into your child, and then you kind of, when they get home, you kind of wring this out and be like, okay, you can keep that, and no, that's not okay. You know what I'm saying? Like, you kind of have to break down like everybody else and what they put into your child. And I was just like, the way that society is progressing, I'm not sure that I want everybody else as an influence on my
To
child,
have that type of input, right?
especially in the first 5 years. Like, now I'm like, at some point, if she says she want to go to school, I'm pretty sure she gonna go to school and say she want to come home. Like, or they gonna say take her home. Like, but it's just like, at least I have a very good understanding of where her foundation was. You know what I'm saying, or is.
And that's what that I think that's the important part when you were talking balance, right? So you pour in as much as you can while you can, and especially in those formative years. Uh, I know you guys hated it, but I would like pour in all of this information in you guys every opportunity I got because I really wanted you to understand where we were, where we came from, and where I would hope that you all would go. I
Mm,
always wanted you guys to go further than I did, further than your dad, literally stand on our shoulders and take the next level.
mm,
Um, but when you pour into them at an early age and you see that manifest over the course of years, you're comfortable with wherever they go because you know what you've put in them. And I mean, like, I didn't have the first 5 years, but I had enough time, I believe, to pour in all the little nuggets that added up.
I
And
agree.
I'm seeing manifestation of, okay, this is what I want, this is what I like, this is what I don't want, this is what I don't like, this is who I am as a person. And so Zaya, she got it all in 5. Yeah, it might have taken y'all about 10 or 12 to get it all, but you got it. And so that's that balancing part, that balancing beam.
It's important. It's really important. I think now my struggle is like, I do want the career, but I want it my way. Like, I'm not so much career as I am like entrepreneur. Like, I'm definitely on that way, but
Well, I
that's
think
a
career,
whole new
I think you need
level.
to rethink that, okay? Because I think career and entrepreneur can be one.
Hmm.
It doesn't have to be separated. And you just made it sound like it's two different
Yeah,
entities, okay?
because it feels like it for me.
And it
Being a
might.
career feels a lot different than being an entrepreneur. Um, because honestly, I'll always tell you, I gave 110% as a teacher, but I give 150 as an entrepreneur, because it's like, this is my name. This falls on me. If anything's not right, they look into you. If something goes wrong in a classroom, you got a couple different people you can blame. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, it might be the teacher, it might be the principal, it might actually be my kid. Like, those are the type of things. But like, when it's your business, I feel like it's a reflection of you, it's a reflection of the work you put in, it's a reflection of your mission. Like, it feels like it's your kid, right? So like, you don't send you if somebody comes and tells you something crazy about your kid, you like, I know mine ain't out there. That's how I feel about my business. Like, it's like my baby. Like, if somebody say something crazy about experience they had or anything like that, like, I'm like, gotta fix it, gotta make it right. And understanding that does it's a struggle, and it's also like, I don't feel like a career is something that you can really. This is a difficult thing to say, because I feel like there's benefits in having like a stable career, a job. You got your 401k, you got your, stocks, whatever, whatever, whatever. But I feel like you can't sit here and say, like, oh, I'm about to retire. Hire my kid as a teacher at your school because I've been working here for 20 years. Like, yes, that might be something that you can have like the right relationships and manipulate, but that's not a guarantee, right? I feel like having my own business makes me feel like I have something that can't nobody take away from me. And this could be my child's legacy. If she wants to sell it, if she wants to run it, if she wants to continue it, like can't nobody take that away from her. You know what I'm saying? Like she can literally say like this is mine. And I feel like you can't really do that with a career. But again, if you like maybe are like CEO or something like that and you just want to appoint your son into your position, like sure, you can do that. Nepotism, I'm all for it, especially black nepotism. But like that's the part that I'm trying to navigate now. But even now, like knowing how much work goes into that, I still have the feeling of like, dang, I'm not doing enough as a parent. And so it's that constant push pull of like I really want to give everything I have into this thing, whether it's a career, whether it's a business idea, whatever it is, like I'm really passionate about this. But that means that I'm kind of cutting back on how much I'm homeschooling, how much I'm parenting, how much I'm involved. And then it's like, oh, I'm really into being a great parent. I'm doing all the emotional social work. I'm doing all of the projects and things like that. But then it's like I haven't touched this email and I don't know how long because I've been being such a great mom. I think that it is kind of a push and pull thing. And I heard somebody say on social media that work life balance is not real. Like it's a myth because there's no such thing as balance. Like you have more of one than the other at
And,
pretty much all times.
and I was going to say, but I think it's a trade-off. So I think we have to accept the fact that it's never 50-50, that type of a balance. But even to me, with my job right now, right? I I'm able to flex time. So that's the balance, right? I'll give you till 6 o'clock tonight, but I'm not coming in till 10:30 tomorrow because, and that's my balance. So I think it's that 80-20, 70-30, thirty
Hmm.
70, whatever that looks like. So I still think that's a balance that we work under. It might not look like a 50-50. It's not an
Hmm.
equal scale, but it's still a balance. So today you might spend an extra 3 hours doing career things or entrepreneur work. But tomorrow, you might spend 2 hours less because you're doing mom or homeschooling.
Hmm. Yeah,
So I think that it's still considered balance. So I don't
for
think we
sure.
we I don't think it's a myth, work-life balance. It's just a matter of the normal thought process being changed and corrected because we're saying, oh, it's not 50-50, so it's not balanced.
Hmm. So do you think that you were able to feel fulfilled while having kids and having a career, or do you think it happened more after your kids were like grown and gone? Like the fulfillment, like of like I'm establishing my career. I'm a professional in this. Like,
I think I felt it at both times. While my children were young, I felt like, you know what? I'm I'm deep into my career and I enjoy it and I feel satisfied. Because I
mm-hmm,
did. When I worked for the state, I felt really validated, satisfied in a career. Worked up to regional manager. You know, I really felt like I had been able to be good with my career, but also with my kids. Now, once you guys left home, it was a little bit different of a feeling because then I was able to dedicate a lot more time to a career, but I also switched careers. So that's something I know when you started out, you were talking about how you say, oh, I'm going to be a teacher, I'm going to work my way up, and this is my career for life. And then all of a sudden you're
mm-hmm,
like, yeah, no, that's not my career for life. So
mm-hmm,
I've had different careers throughout my life of working, right? So I think in the moment you're doing what you're doing to the best. I think it's Will Smith that said when he was rapping and originally, he didn't think about anything else. He concentrated wholeheartedly on that. And that
Mm.
was, and then when he went into acting, he's left the music scene alone. He was all about acting. So I think in each stage of my life or career, I've been able to hit it hard, be good at it, not condemn, be flexible with being able to parent, all of those things. And then once the next level came, it was the next level or the next chapter.
But I can honestly say, and this is just my perception, it's like you really had a village. Like you had, I don't want to name everybody, but you know what I'm saying? Like you had this person stayed around the corner. Everybody, your
I
whole
had a
family was in like pretty much
walking
walking
distance.
distance. And I was just thinking about like how beneficial that was to you, like having that many people that you trusted with your kids because I can't name that many, that I feel the same way about now. And I feel like that's the part that makes it hard. Like I definitely feel like you had a great job, but I think you also had a great village. And of course, like we up and moved, so like I don't think we wouldn't have had a village if we would have been at home. But I think about the fact that like even with that, like everybody kind of has their own lives and livelihood and
Right.
working around that is difficult, um and having that village in today's day and time feels unrealistic if I'm being honest.
I think, and as I stated earlier on, that was one of the things, one of my desires was to create that community environment where you pour into the youth because I was the last generation to actually experience that. So,
Mm-hmm.
community support and that village that you refer to is a thing of the past. And I think there are multiple reasons. One, because a pastor told me years ago, they call it the hood because we don't have neighbors. Nobody is neighborly. So, you take the neighborhood away. Two, parents and grandparents and even great grandparents at this point are all still in the workforce. Like
Mm-hmm.
I read a statistic. This is the first time that we've had, I think, four generations, 4 or 5 generations, all in the workplace at the same time because nobody can afford to
Not
retire.
to. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you got the 16-year-olds, you got the 25-year-olds, you got the 35, 40, you got all of these generations all in the workforce. So you don't have that village anymore because everybody is working their fingers to the bone until they're darn near dead. You know, Granny don't get to be Granny until she 80. Whereby my grandmother, I was thinking about it not too long ago. I used to think, wow, my grandmother was retired and everything. And I started doing the math, right? The mental math. And it's like, my grandmother was only 49 years old when like she was outside
And just
washing greens in
raising
the front.
y'all.
Yeah, yeah, she washing greens in the front yard. You know what I'm saying? She didn't
Mm-hmm.
have to work. And here I am past 50 and I don't get to sit out under the shade tree and wash greens.
Mm-hmm.
You
No
know?
reality.
It's
Yeah.
not. And so I think that's a difference. And I think that our society has really done such an injustice to human beings, right?
A
We
livelihood.
livelihood, human beings, we've become robots. They don't want us to retire. They just work, 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 work.
Working
You
on.
gotta, you gotta pay the high $8 a carton eggs prices, so you can't afford not to. You have to pay the $3,000 rent or mortgage because you can't live with one bedroom and half a bath. It's so sad. It's so sad. It's such an injustice that is being done to the human race in this country. It's ridiculous.
It is.
And so finding that balance, it's a strategy and you have to be strategic. Okay.
I agree.
Um, like I've said this whole time, I was able to have a job that would allow me to be mom where
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people don't. Amazon don't care about you being on mama if you don't show up.
And honestly, the crazy thing about it is teachers in the education field, most teachers, principals, whatever, all of them got kids, but it's like that career above all, right? Like if you're the mom that's taking off early, need a sub, like everybody looking at you like you crazy. And it's like, bruh, just cause y'all let y'all kids be sick and y'all don't go home and care for them, don't mean that's my plan. Like
That's not my plan.
I feel
Like
like when I name in an interview that I'm a mom, like that was me giving you a heads up. Like,
that I got another responsibility that takes precedence, right? I
and
mean,
why you
I need
love
you to
like,
understand that.
and I think that's the hard part in the conflict about working in. I think that's what really was the icing on a cake. Like there are multiple things that I can speak to as to why I left teaching. Um, but one of the biggest things was the fact that like they believe that that environment is supposed to replace your family. Like you talk about the students in your classroom like they're your kids. And that's what's the word? Admirable. Like that's they give a lot of energy to that, right? Like these are my kids and everybody says like your kids, them your babies. You know what I'm saying? But then you have to think about what that does to your psyche when now you've added 30 children to being yours. And so you don't like if my kid is sick, I don't feel bad about staying up all night with my kid. If my kids in my classroom are uneducated, I don't feel bad about staying up all night trying to make sure I perfect this lesson. And so then it becomes like this unhealthy relationship because I got 30 kids plus mine. So and then like I have this family at home and then like I'm at work so much that now y'all my family too. And so you feel this conflict of like, which family am I putting first? Which family am I pouring into the
More.
most?
Right,
Yeah.
right.
That turned unhealthy for me so fast. And I was just like, I can't do it no more. I
And
can't.
I think you nailed that so perfect because at this stage of life, right, I am, as you said, in the foster care. And so all of these kids I claim as my babies, right? And so not having to come home to a baby helps me be able to pour more into them.
Into them.
But
Hmm.
I think during the time where I had babies at home, I was not in a position where I had to give that much to a child
Hmm.
and I could give it all to my child.
Yeah, it's a special type of crazy when you at work and you hear miss, 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 and then you come home and you hear mom, mom, mom. It's like
I lost that
I don't
name.
want
I
to be
threw that
related
title
to
out the door.
anybody.
I don't even know who I am right now. So you could call till the cows come home and nobody's
I'm
answering.
not answering. I'm hiding from everybody. Like I get to work and I'm hiding in my classroom before the kids get there because I just don't want to hear my name yet. And then I get home and I'm hiding in the bathroom because I just don't want to hear my name yet. Like
Yeah.
it's hard to be everything for everybody, and you already have that expectation of a mom. And then I think the fact that it's so hard to parent now, you then put that pressure on teachers to be like a second mom. And so I just was
Well,
like, you know what, I still want to be in the business of helping the youth, but not like that.
yeah. And what aspect? And that's what I tell people all the time is choose the area because that field is broad, right? Helping children. I'm
Mm-hmm.
helping through foster care. I've helped through therapy. I have been in the classroom. So the area of helping a child, I've been a mentor.
It's plenty ways to do so, trust me.
Just figure it out which way
Yeah.
you want to pour into
You got
them
your nonprofit lanes, you got your ed tech, you got your tutors, you got it's so many lanes.
to be
Um,
able to do that.
yeah,
And so you
and
just have
I
to
had
figure
to
out
come
which
to that
one.
conclusion.
Yeah, because I never want to not be able to help a child in whatever aspect that looks like. So I've narrowed it down right now,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm still narrowing it because as much as I love reunification of family in the foster system, I love supporting children and unpacking the traumas that they've experienced so that they don't carry it over into adulthood and new relationships.
Hmm. Yeah. So, what would you say, to kind of put a bow on it, is your advice to someone similar to me, right? Like late 20s, early 30s, who feels like they're either trying to figure out career or they're trying to figure out motherhood or they're trying to, balance the two and the pressures that exist within the time frame that we have as women to do either or.
And would say to anybody in that area is know that it's not 50-50, as I've
Mm-hmm.
stated. It's never going to be 50-50. And you have to understand what is important in that moment.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, you can have both. It's doable. It's not easy, but it can be done. And like I said, figuring out in that moment, because every moment has its purpose, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if I have to stay late tonight to work, then I got to spend extra time tomorrow to parent.
Mm-hmm.
That's the balance of it. If you're giving all to one or the other, you messed up.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to be strategic in it.
Yeah.
I think that's my advice.
Mine would be pretty similar. I think my advice would probably be to the people younger than that though, because I'm still in that phase of like trying to figure out. So for me, my day to day, just being transparent, my day to day changes pretty much every week. So like one week this schedule works, the next week it's like, this week is gonna be a pretty heavy workload week, and all I got for y'all is the mornings. You know what I'm saying? A couple, hour or two in the morning, and then gotta go. But then other times it's like, oh, I don't have that much to do. Let me, spend a whole day or, spend, this much time, put in more time into it. So I think that, my thing is the thing that I'm learning is flexibility. It's like if I create, and I'm really learning this, but it's a hard lesson. Flexibility, just in general. Like
Hmm.
I'm the
Yes, you're
type of
not a
person
very
where
flexible
I
person.
don't like change. So if I set this schedule, this is what we're doing every day. And if anything gets in the way of this schedule, I'm a crazy person. But I think my advice to like the 18 to, 20, 22, anywhere in there, it would be to really like explore other options. Like if I could go back to my 21-year-old self, I would tell myself like, try something else. Why not? Like, yeah, a teacher is great. You see what it's like. Now go do something else that you're interested in. You could always go back to being a teacher. You have the degree. You know what I'm saying? Like, especially like after I got my master's, I wish I would have just tried other things just to try them.
Hmm.
Um, or taking other classes just to take them. Like at this point in time, that is what I'm doing, but it's a lot harder to do them. um but like if it's coding, if it's cooking, if it's whatever interest you are, I would encourage younger people to explore all your interests early so that when you do make a career or a life decision, you can be really grounded in that. Like it's just like people that kind of get married early without dating. Like you kind of get to a certain point where you're like, dang, I never really did see what was out there. You know what I'm saying? I feel like it can be the same way with your career.
And I think what we have to also be mindful of is you said it years ago, that you evolve and change over the course of
Mm-hmm.
time. Okay. So while I got a job originally, I started a career later, I changed that career. So you evolve constantly. So
That's true.
even if you're 18 and you just are 21 with your degree, 22 after college, and you're just testing the waters of each one, don't feel like you are obligated to stick and stay.
Yeah, don't be married to.
Don't be married. You can be married to an idea. You don't have to
Mm-hmm.
be married to a career
Mm-hmm.
because there are so many variations. You could be a nurse, you could be a doctor, you could be a surgeon, you can be an anesthesiologist. Okay, that's all in the
Yeah.
medical field. Okay. You could
That's
be a
why I like personality tests more than I like career tests. Because like when you figure out that thing, like I just like helping
thing. That's
people,
it. That's it.
right? I think we need to be specific, right? Because while I like helping people, I don't want to be anybody's nurse. I don't like blood,
Yeah.
like
Not into geriatrics. I don't want to wipe old people. I
don't
don't
want to
like,
get,
I don't want
yeah,
daycare. I don't want to change
bodily fluids
Pampers.
on me. Not
You
trying to tie
know?
no shoes. Like you have to be specific about those type of things. But I think
Absolutely.
like once you figure out your niche, you then can open up that world of like, oh well, if like you said, if I'm a foster care worker, I'm still helping children. You know what I'm saying? But that wasn't the case for us, at least my generation. It was like, oh, you like working with kids? You should be a teacher or a social worker. Like go into this career. And it's
This or
like,
that. There, yeah. And it's
wait a
so much
minute.
more. It's
It's so
so
much
much
more.
more. And I think that we have to start exploring because, for years, doctor, lawyer, Indian chief,
That's
that was
it.
it.
That's it.
Police officer, fireman, airplane, or pilot.
I
That's
will say
it.
that that's something that me and Dee are like discussing about with the kids is like, and this is a sidebar, it really has nothing to do with the topic, but I think it's important to name that like we've been talking about ways to expose them to different career opportunities, even based off of like what they're interested in now at like 4 and 5. So like I told Dee like I didn't know that being a Disney princess was like a thing until I heard about somebody like going to work for Disney. And like, who would have thought that that's a career or a
Career.
real job or, you know what I'm saying? So, like, imagine your, 5-year-old knowing that that's a possibility. Like, but that you still got to go to college, you still got to go to school, you still got to sign this contract. You can't get no tattoos, you can't get no piercings. Like, it'll make you really think about what I want to do, you know what I'm saying? And
Absolutely.
what is my scope of like opportunity? I think that that
Absolutely.
is so important like to do that younger now because time is moving faster now it feels like.
It does. I remember my grandmother used to say, the older you get, the faster time goes. And I ain't understand it until I got older. And I was like, whoa,
Same.
stop. Somebody stop the clock, please.
I still can't believe I'm almost 30.
Honey, when I say plus 50, I'm like, whew, takes my breath away to think about it. But, you know, I
I
think that
still feel so young inside though.
me too,
Not
but
body wise,
I was gonna
but
say me too, but not the body.
indeed.
I literally stand up and I'd be like, okay, balance, move.
Yikes.
But on the inside, I feel like I'm still that 25-year-old. I could go out there and do cartwheels in the yard and run down the street. However, I dare not try it.
Exactly. I think this was good. I think we have a good discussion. I would love if everybody would like, comment, subscribe, tell us what you think. How are you guys balancing motherhood, career, being a boss, being a CEO, running your business, and also running your homes? And we didn't even get into it, but like there are other, components to that, like being a wife or, the
And
pressure
I
of
think
your
that's a good one
job.
to do
Like,
think about here in the near future is that aspect of balance and wife, motherhood, and career. Because we talked about the balance of career and motherhood. But what about that wife aspect? Because there's another full-time position that we have a
hello.
label or a title that goes along
And
with it.
expectations and all of that.
Yes.
And
Cook,
just
clean,
and knowing
be
that and knowing that like you're in a career, like not trying to get into it too deep, but just knowing that and like knowing that you're trying to reach a certain place, I think it can equally damage or enhance relationships, right? It affects it. I don't want to say positively or negatively because it depends on the couple, but I feel like, some people don't like that their wife is super into work all the time. Like who's raising our kids? You know what I'm saying? And some people don't like that their husband never takes off work or whatever the case may be. So that relationship dynamic throws a whole wrench into the conversation that we just had and adds another layer to it. But like you said,
Another
to be
topic, another
continued.
time to be continued. Please
Yes.
join.
All right.
All right.